Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss shifting priorities in today's world.
And on our Coach's Corner, we're going to go over the proposed tax changes and how to prepare for them.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you some financial moves to consider for a successful retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better. You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and apply them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss shifting priorities in today's world and the onset of the Great Resignation.
You know, Wendy, after reflecting a lot since, of course, the start of this pandemic, it seems that for the most of the people in my life, friends, family, clients, being wealthy today has a different meaning than it did 10 or 20 or even 30 years ago. It's no longer about the big house, the flashy cars, or working all hours of the day. It's now about having the means to provide for your family and the time to spend with them. If this pandemic has taught us anything, it has taught us what our priorities truly are, and that the important things in life aren't things, it's the people that you share your life with. Being wealthy today means you have time with family, you have your health, and you have the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Since March of 2020, people have really started thinking about their life and what they want to change so that it is truly fulfilling. This has led us to what many are calling the Great Resignation. American workers are changing jobs and retiring in droves. Many people also have extra funds because they have not been able to travel as much and do the things that they love to do. And there's a lot of change happening in a lot of people's lives and in our world as a whole, which requires that you reevaluate your portfolio and likely make some changes that are going to be better for you and for your family and, of course, for your happiness as well.
Yeah, priorities have definitely changed in the last year, and I think a lot of you out there would agree that things were, this past year and a half, like the importance of antiseptic wipes and masks, things that I took for granted. Do I have enough in the house? Toilet paper, right? To the extra time, as you mentioned, that we spend with our families. I was an empty nester, and then suddenly everyone was home again, so that was a good thing. And I think another good thing is some of us saved some money because we didn't go out shopping and we didn't spend money on trips and a lot of the things that we were doing during a typical year. So good things and bad things, but definitely a priority shift this past year and a half.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of clients we've been meeting with lately are wanting to know what to do with that extra money that they have saved during the pandemic. What to do with those retirement accounts since changing jobs and how much sooner they can get to retirement than they had originally planned. Whatever your new goals are for your future, it's important to take all of your assets and create a plan to cater to what you want out of retirement and make sure your portfolio is protected from the uncertainty in our world today and the changes that are most definitely going to continue to come and continue to happen.
Yeah, I think another term that has become popular is pivot. You got to pivot
Absolutely.
when you're faced with something. So we've got to do some pivoting, I guess, when it comes to our retirement and plan for some more changes ahead because of what we've just been through. Right?
I like that. Pivot.
All right, I just thought I'd throw that in. It popped into my head. So we do have a lot more to discuss on the show. When we return on the Coach's Corner, we are going to go over the proposed tax changes and how to prepare for them. Stay with us.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations, so call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to go over the proposed tax changes and how to prepare for them.
That's right, proposed. Fall of 2021 was expected to be a time, when Americans would finally start to feel a sense of normalcy. Children returning to school and classroom, parents of school-age children rejoining the workforce, and of course the unemployment benefits expiring. With this positive outlook, the market was continuing to hit record highs. However, since the beginning of September, stocks have been falling due to numerous worries of the American people. After 7 months of gains, these worries came to a head as the three major U.S. indexes have been down more often than they have been up. There are concerns with inflation, slowing growth, massive proposed government spending, and of course the potential for Fed action. Coronavirus worries, of course, continue, and of course the latest new proposed tax plan. There are a lot of changes on the horizon, and there is so much uncertainty in our world, and as soon as we think we found a new normal, more changes are being thrown our way. Now is the time to take action and make sure your portfolio is set up correctly. You must be proactive before these changes go into effect, Chad, and not wait to react when it happens, after it happens.
Yeah, and I think, we know the two things that really drive the market. Greed is one, and what you're talking about is fear is another big one. So all of these things that cause us to worry or create that fear in the market are things that really can affect the market and cause us to really lose a lot of money if the market goes in a downturn. So it's very important for you to now know and get your portfolio set up properly so you can withstand hopefully more good times, but most importantly, more bad times ahead.
So today we're going to help people learn to prepare for those changes. Let's start out with talking about what those changes are that we need to be aware of.
When we talk about prepare, you want to make sure you're always a couple steps ahead, right?
Right.
So President Biden's American Families Plan still has to make its way through the Senate before it becomes law, and the final legislation may look different from the most recent version that included $2.1 trillion in new taxes. However, it is important to know what the proposed plan contains now so you can plan, because one thing we do know is taxes are going up. The total pandemic relief tab now totals $5 trillion. And these relief packages did help our economy, but who do you think will end up paying for these stimulus packages in the long run? Likely you and I and other U.S. citizens in the forms of taxes. And it's important to be prepared. And a few things to note from the proposed bill wants to raise the top income tax rate, Chad, now back to 39.6% from the current 37%. Also, there is a new long-term capital gains rate of 25% effective immediately. Clients with large unrealized capital gains would not be able to sell such assets before the end of 2021 to avoid the higher rate. So again, going into effect now.
Yeah, and I think, knowing some of these proposed changes, this is something that it's so important to really make some of these changes sooner than later, because once these changes are maybe set in stone, it's probably going to be too late for us to go back and try and adjust and make changes.
Well, and we know that Tax Time 2022 will be here before we know it. So, all right, what's the next big change that is affecting retirees?
Well, as we talked about earlier with the great resignation, leaving or retiring from a job, a recent survey released by Bankrate found that 55% of Americans plan to seek new jobs in the coming year. If you're among the many workers hoping to take part in what is being referred to as and dubbed as the Great Resignation, be sure to pay attention to the 401k plan or your retirement plans you're leaving behind. On a similar note, I met with a gentleman last week, and he had been watching the TV show and called to schedule a consultation with me. And his company has not done well in the pandemic, and they were asking him to take an early retirement. They were basically cutting him from the corporate world before he was really ready to go. Over the past year, we've seen this scenario quite a few times, and unexpectedly retiring can feel extremely rushed and, of course, very nerve-wracking, and changing jobs in general can be a bit overwhelming. And it's important to have a plan for that retirement account you've been throwing money into the entire time you have been with that company, and make sure that you do not lose too much of it once you've gained. In other words, Chad, you want to hold on to what you have and make sure you go forwards, not backwards.
Well, and I think when we look, you're right. The reality of a lot of people out there, employees that have been putting money in their 401ks, the reality is they don't have a whole lot of idea of really what's going on with that plan. And because maybe they've gotten one maybe advisor or one helping hand once a year to come out and talk to the firm about the 401k plan. But a lot of people, they don't have any control in it. They don't really know much about it. And especially, Chad, as you mentioned, if you're changing jobs, you want to take control of that old 401k and kind of put that over into an IRA in your name so you can take control as well.
And what about changes for the stock market? What's your advice there?
Well, we talk about the unhinged portfolio. When we look back on this time in the markets, it will likely be said that investors were overtaken by the reward side, leading them to make costly mistakes and take too much risk. A recent article from the New York Times stated that the S&P 500 index has more than doubled in value since it hit bottom in March of last year. However, just recently we have started to see the markets dip, and many wonder if the next market downturn is on the horizon. Clients coming to our office are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Many are getting anxious and concerned about their portfolios because they realize their comfort with risk has started to change as they get closer to or enter retirement. You know, Chad, we talk about that 3 to 5 years, or if you are retired, now it's really time to take some of those gains off the table and harvest some of those gains.
Yeah, and I think, obviously greed and fear, we talked a little bit earlier, greed's been controlling the market, and a lot of investors have loved it and kind of gotten a little bit comfortable. But we're starting to see, portfolios that have received a lot of these gains, now their safe risk ratio being a little upside down or lopsided. So, I think it's, as you just mentioned, this is a great time to reevaluate, maybe take some of those gains off the table, harvest those gains, so now you're back in balance again moving forward.
Great information. So if people out there are thinking, I have this circumstance or I have this question, what is the best way to get a hold of you, Chad?
Well, the best way to get a hold of my team or myself is to answer any questions, of course, you may realize from today or to schedule a meeting, is by calling us at the number below, 888-294-9248.
And stay with us. We will be right back.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team. That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed changes that can affect your retirement. Now we're going to show you some financial moves to consider for a successful retirement.
You know, retirement planning has always been a difficult task, but retirement planning in our world today, even aside from the global pandemic, is much more difficult than it was 10, 20, or even 30 years ago. There once was a time when after 25 or 30 years of working diligently for your employer, you could expect to be rewarded for your loyalty and hard work with a gold watch and a steady stream of checks lasting the length of your retirement. But times have changed, and those steady checks, which came courtesy of a defined benefit plan, also called a pension, are a thing of the past for most private sector workers. We're now living in what we call a pensionless society. 20 plus years ago, 80% of American workers had a pension. However, today, less than 20% of American workers actually have a pension, and that number is dropping all the time. A lot more preparation must be done on your end in order to have a successful retirement. You've been setting money aside for your retirement, working all your life, and now is the time to make sure that that money will last throughout your retirement. And there are a few strategies you need to know about now that you can take advantage of to protect that nest egg that you've worked all your life to accumulate.
Well, and Chad, as you just mentioned, now all of a sudden American retirees have this nest egg that it's most important to make sure you have a plan so you protect that from market volatility. So not only the plan with your money, but also a plan for taxes and taxation as you move into retirement as well.
Now, I know you, Chad, and the whole Slagle team have some great strategies helping your clients handle these big changes. What's the first one?
Well, number one, as you get closer to retirement, it's very important to begin moving your money into tax-free territory. And there are a few ways to do this. One of those, of course, is by using a Roth conversion strategy. You're taking your qualified money, which is money that will be eventually taxed, and putting it in a tax-free vehicle so that when you need to draw out this money later on, you do not have that tax burden that you would have otherwise. And there are a couple big benefits to using this strategy. Number one, you will be locking in today's lower tax rates, whereas if you wait any longer, tax rates will rise and you'll be paying even more. And number two, you lock in a 0% tax rate on those Roth funds for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life, and for 10 years after death for your beneficiaries. Plus, the Roth IRA owners have no lifetime required minimum distribution, or RMDs, once they reach age 72. But those who have qualified accounts do have another option, Chad, which is what we call legacy optimization.
Yeah, and I think legacy optimization, when you're talking about this, it's another strategy. So, and it's a number one or two, depending on your situation, that works with that Roth conversion. And essentially, the legacy optimization is taking money out of that qualified account, that taxable bucket, shifting it over to that tax-free bucket. Now this tax-free bucket with the legacy optimization offers family legacy, where it's tax-free, passed on to your family, your spouse, your kids, grandkids. It also can provide long-term care protection down the road if you're in need of that kind of protection. And some clients even use this option as future tax-free income from that legacy optimization plan as well. So it kind of gives a few other benefits as well, just like the Roth IRA or that Roth conversion does with you.
All right, well, I want to pay my taxes, but not more than I have to, so that's
There's
a good
some
one.
gray area that we all need to take advantage of.
That's right. So what is your second strategy you want to pass along?
Number one, if you are nearing retirement, changing jobs, of course, or if you've been cut from the corporate world before you could retire, you must decide what to do with your 401k or company or retirement plan. What we often recommend is, when it comes to those accounts, is an in-service withdrawal. This is rolling money over from your IRA or your 401k or company plan to an IRA at or after age 59 and a half. And this is beneficial for many reasons. Number one, it puts you in control of your money, not your employer. Number two, it gives you more investing options, whereas inside your 401k or your company plan, you're very limited. You may have 10 plans and you got like 30 target date funds, right? And number three, there are a lot more safe havens inside of an IRA. And number four, it is more advantageous for your beneficiaries. A few important things to note about your 401k or company plan is you can start withdrawing this without penalty at age 59 and a half. And if you leave your job at or after age 55, you can start penalty-free withdrawals early from that 401k. And this is a thing, Chad, that we find with a lot of pre-retirees today. They had no idea that they can start drawing that money after 55 if they, meet certain obligations and they do certain things the right way.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned that in-service withdrawal or in-service rollover while you're still working 59 and a half or after. But if you are 55 and older and you are going to need to draw money from that company plan, that 401k, that's probably the time where you want to make sure that you leave that money there so you can access that. But at 59 and a half and older, rolling that money to an IRA, you can access there, and you just have a lot more, as Chad mentioned, benefits inside that IRA that you can build a plan from.
And your final strategy has to do with risk and fee assessment. Explain that one.
Yeah, in order to plan for retirement, you need to understand a couple things. Number one, you need to understand where you are now. And number two, you need to understand where you want to go. What kind of life do you want to have in retirement? And the way you figure that out is by following a systematized, proven system. And our system at Schlegel Financial is called our GPS, our Guided Planning System. Once you know where you are and where you want to go, it will tell you turn by turn, step by step, exactly how to get there. And the first way we do this, of course, is by creating clarity, understanding your goals and concerns. And the next step is analyzing your risk and help you understand the fees you're currently paying, as well as the risk that you're taking on your portfolio, Chad.
So after those first two steps, you kind of move into what we call our evaluation step, where now this is where we can kind of identify areas that, are doing really well in the plan, but areas that we need to help improve with the plan as well. And then the last step is really from those changes, the areas we need to improve, we need to implement that plan of action and make those improvements. So now your retirement plan is set up based on your goals.
Some helpful strategies. In order for those of you out there watching to make sure your retirement is on the right path, Schlegel Financial has educational events coming up in your area. To sign up for one of these events, call the number below, 888-294-9248. When we come back on the Strategy Play, the Chads are going to show you how to identify your safe risk ratio and use it to prepare for market volatility. Stay with us. We will be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your monies that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations, so call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Schlegel Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's Strategy Play, we're going to discuss how your risk appetite should change as you get closer to retirement and how to make sure your portfolio reflects that appetite. Many prospects coming into our office today are worried about all of the major upcoming changes and are not sure their portfolio is set up to weather the storm these changes may bring, Chad.
Well, and I think when you talk about people coming into our office, a lot of times they're coming in, husband and wife just worked 20, 30, maybe even 40 years. They've been putting money in that 401k, those retirement plans, and lo and behold, retirement comes, and they're sitting there with maybe $1 million in the portfolio. And as they've been working, it's been grow at all costs. They've wanted to grow that money, but now all of a sudden, they've shifted it into a different phase of life, and they come in, and let's just say, for example, 90% of that money, they thought they were diversified, it's in the market, and they're taking on that risk. However, when we evaluate and we go through and we analyze the risk, we find out that 90%, 900,000, stands to lose maybe 40% or more in another market downturn.
So they go from $1 million now down to $600,000. But what we do is we sit down with them, and of course the first thing we want to do, Chad, when we talk about our GPS process is you want to make sure that we clarify, we create that clarity. And after asking them a few questions about their risk tolerance, about their income needs, about what their goals are for retirement, then we find out they really don't want to lose, taking the risk to lose 40%, they're only willing to lose maybe 10 or 15%. And by doing that, we completely rebalance their portfolio, get the secure bucket, growth bucket, or what we call their safe risk ratio set up properly, And that allows them to reposition that money, Chad. Instead of having 90% of that money at risk as they get closer to retirement, they're really only comfortable with having 40% of that money at risk.
Yeah, and I think as we mentioned earlier in the show, 20% of American workers are retiring with pensions. So this, the income is that first step of solving and evaluating and implementing some changes. So that safe side is that family pension. It's that income that they're going to know is coming in each and every month for the rest of their lives. And now all of a sudden, once that's solved, we can afford to take on some market risk and have that other 40% in the
And
market.
the key, Chad, like you said, less than 20% of American workers have a pension. Now, the days of depending on your employer or the government to take care of you are gone. You need to be proactive and build a game plan, and this is what the GPS process allows you to do. Have you shifted your risk tolerance to align with your current phase of life? Do you know if your portfolio is set up to withstand a market correction? If you're having doubts, I encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
To get more detailed information on these strategies and how they can work for you, call the Slagle team you can call them now to schedule your 5-point inspection at 888-294-9248. And we will be right back with some of the key takeaways from today's show.
Chad Slagle, and join
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice. Appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning.
In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through
We
retirement.
are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot of ground today. What would you say, Chad, are some of the key takeaways?
Well, first thing, Wendy, we want to make sure we pivot and prepare for rising taxes. Make sure you and your family are prepared for the uncertain tax increases that are coming. Number two, protect your retirement accounts. Make sure you are proactive and your accounts are protected from the massive market swings that we will be seeing. And number three, rebalance your portfolio. Make sure your portfolio is aligned to your retirement goals and is balanced so you're not reacting to the market. Instead, you're being proactive all the time.
Good advice. Well, Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. To sign up for one of these events or to schedule a meeting with Slagle Financial's team of advisors, call 888-294-9248.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.